Hello everyone and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. According to The Bold and the Beautiful BNB teaser video for the week of August 17th to 21st, Electra Forrester, Lania Grace, lays down the law with Melissa Dillon, Sydney Bullock, while John Finnegan, Tanner Novlin, will return to Los Angeles with one objective in mind. Katie Logan Spencer, Heather Tom, confronts Will Spencer, Crew Morrow, in the opening scene of BNB's weekly commercial after he claims to be missing Electra while having an affair with her best friend. Naturally, Will may contend that Electra broke up with him and made it obvious that they would never reconcile. Will might not see why he shouldn't take Dillon's offer of consolation. Dillon and Electra will engage in a heated argument at work in the interim. Electra will remind out that her employment may be in danger because Dillon is pursuing Will and upsetting her now former best friend. My name is Electra Forrester. In the weekly teaser video, Electra tells Dillon, "You're gone if I want it." It seems that if Dillon continues to pursue Will, Electra will threaten to fire her. Dillon would argue that only Ridge Forrester, Torsten Kay, and Steffy Forrester Finnegan, Jacqueline McInnes would have the authority to choose her future at Forrester Creations, but Electra might argue that she could persuade them to fire Dillon. But now that her marriage has completely failed, Steffy has more pressing matters on her mind. Steffy is intoxicated and prepared to rely on Carter Walton, Lawrence St. Victor, for assistance because she believes her relationship with Finn is ended. Carter will listen as Steffy goes on to describe all the drama, saying that all she ever wanted was to be free of the woman who is attempting to ruin her family. Steffy feels that she has had enough of the disruption caused by Sheila Carter, Kimberlyn Brown. Because Daphne Rose Walton, Muriel Hilaire, left him, Carter is also intoxicated, so Steffy will comfort him as B&B probably develops into a sexual affair. In their inebriated state, Carter and Steffy appear ready to go too far. Finn, on the other hand, will fly home in a hurry and say he must reach Steffy before it's too late. Finn might be too late to prevent his wife from committing the ultimate betrayal, based on how things are going for Carter and Steffy thus far. According to spoilers for the CBS soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful, there are still some unexpected moments to come. Stay in for all the terrible news and intense confrontations that lie ahead. The engines were a low roar that matched the frenzied pulse in Finn's ears as the private jet cut through the clouds above the Atlantic, making his heart race. He felt as was another second had been taken from the lady he loved with each mile he traveled toward Los Angeles. Steffy. His Steffy. The woman who had waited for him outside the Monaco chapel, only to have the one person Finn had vowed to keep at a distance destroy her entire world. Sheila at all times. With his eyes closed, he leaned his forehead against the chilly pane and relentlessly relived the beach nightmare. His mother's face was covered by the scarf. Steffy's startled realization. Her hand had raced to her wedding bands as though they were suddenly too heavy to handle. The moment that still made his stomach turn was when Steffy pulled the diamond from her finger and threw it into the sand, then turned away from him and left without even looking back. His voice broke as he yelled after her. Before Ridge and Brooks saw him looking half mad, he had combed the streets of Monaco. After pleading with them to let him know where she had gone, he discovered that she was already on a flight home, sipping first-class champagne and turning off her phone. The interior of the jet felt like a cage as he raced after her. He could still hear Ridge's angry comments. "You allowed that woman to go with you on the plane. Did you hide it from my daughter?" Finn had no way to defend himself. He had struck a bargain with the devil in human form, promising Sheila concealment in return for her abstinence, which she had broken as soon as it was convenient for her. Even worse, he had decided to keep quiet rather than be honest since he thought he could shield Steffy from the reality until the appropriate time. There was never a perfect time. There had never been. The pilot announced their descent at LAX over the intercom. Even though Finn knew Steffy's number would go directly to voicemail, he still sat up straight and reached for his phone. Despite his weariness and worry, he left another message in a harsh voice. "I'm landing, Steffy. Just allow me to explain, please. I adore you. Long after he hung up, he gazed at the screen, hoping her name would appear. "I'm coming home." It remained dark. Electra Forrester stood with her arms crossed in the shiny offices of Forrester Creations across the city, gazing down at the young woman who had once been her best friend. Dylan's chin was up in that obstinate manner that never failed to both impress and enrage her. Old vows and more recent betrayals crackled in the air between them. Electra spoke in a calm, low voice that only came out when she was on the verge of losing it. She said, "I warned you to avoid him. As a co-worker and friend of mine, I requested you to respect the line. You stayed at his residence for the night. You acknowledged that you have feelings for him." Dylan's eyes flared. "And now you stand here acting like I'm the unreasonable one. You broke up with him. You left. The key was thrown back by you. Electra, he's not dating. You are neither mine nor his goalkeeper. When you two were together, I fulfilled my promise." With a crisp click of her heels on the polished floor, Electra took a step closer. "That promise died the second you decided you were done with him for good. There was more to that promise than just timing. Has to do with loyalty. About keeping my private life out of the gossip and drama at work. I fought for you, which is why you are employed here. Because I thought you could be trusted, you had a desk, a title, and a future in this organization. That future is over if you keep pursuing Will Spencer." Today, the threat loomed large and decisive between them. Dylan's expression stiffened, but she continued to stare. "Then let me go. Take action. Because I won't pretend that I don't feel the way I do in order to maintain my income or your acceptance. Will brings me joy. He notices me." Electra's jaw tightened. "And I'll live with it if that costs me this job and whatever's left of our friendship." The distant hum of the design studio outside the glass walls was the only sound for a little while. She considered the opportunity to take on a more significant role, the younger line RJ had been selling, and the way the company was finally beginning to feel like it might have room for her own vision. She reflected on how much effort she had put into separating herself from Will's chaotic life. Dylan, the girl she had once trusted with everything, was on the other side of an uncrossable line, she thought. "Leave my office," Electra muttered. "And carefully consider what you want to do next." Dylan stared at her for a long moment before turning and leaving without saying anything more. "Because if I see you with him again, if I even hear a rumor, your badge will stop working at the front door." As soon as the door closed, Electra slid into the chair behind her desk and put her fingers to her temples. It hurt so terribly that she detested it. She detested the fact that she still wanted to call Dylan and insist that they make the necessary corrections. Mostly, though, she detested the fact that Will Spencer still had the ability to destroy all she was attempting to construct. Finn's automobile zipped through the familiar streets of Beverly Hills, the city sparkling beneath the late afternoon light as if nothing in the world had moved. The Forrester mansion was silent when he arrived there directly from the airport. Steffy had briefly returned home, refused to talk, and then left again, according to a text message from Brooke. Ridge continued to deal with the ramifications while in Monaco. Next, Finn had examined the office. Carter had given him a pitying glance and mentioned that Steffy had been there earlier, upset but had left. Finn was now driving aimlessly, phoning her every few minutes, and leaving bits and pieces of an increasingly meaningless apology. At last his phone buzzed. "Not Steffy. Brooke. The seaside house is where she is. By myself. Finn, she doesn't want to see anyone. Particularly not you at this moment. Give her room." He disregarded the caution. Their final resort had always been the beach home, where they could forget the world's distractions and recall why they had battled so hard to stay together. He parked carelessly and ascended the stairs 2 at a time. The front door was not locked. He entered and came to a halt. With a half-empty glass of something amber on the table next to her, Steffi sat with her spine tense on the edge of the sofa facing the ocean. The elegance had vanished, but her hair remained in the same loose waves that she had worn in Monaco. Wrapped in one of his old sweaters, she appeared smaller in some way, as though the air had become chilly. "Steffi." She remained motionless. "You shouldn't have come. I had to." He approached cautiously, as though she would break. "I need your attention." Sheila appeared aboard the aircraft. It wasn't until we were in the air that I realized. I told her to go. I warned her not to get near you. I thought if I could get her on a flight home before you ever saw her, she said in a flat, harsh voice. You thought wrong. You constantly believe you can control her. You constantly believe that by harboring secrets, you can keep me safe. And she always comes out on top. Something is ruined by her. With his elbows on his knees, Finn collapsed onto the chair across from her, saying, "She ruins us. I am aware. I am aware that I let you down. I should have told you everything the moment I laid eyes on her face." When Steffy eventually turned to face him, she said, "I became the one who destroyed the weekend we planned because I was so focused on not letting her destroy it." The mascara she hadn't bothered to take off was smudged under her red-rimmed eyes. "I was waiting for you at that church. Do you know how much that location means to me? I thought I had lost you forever there, but I later discovered you again. I wanted to stand there with you and think about how we made it through the toughest. I got Sheila instead. Once more. And you justifying her." Once more his voice broke as he said, "I'm not making excuses. I can't lose you over this, so I'm being honest with you now. My wife is you. You are my children's mother. The only person who has ever given me a sense of belonging is you. Sheila is my mother. She does not, however, come first. Has never done so. Yes, you do." "You always have," Steffy said, averting her gaze once more to the lake. "Then demonstrate it. For now, all I see is the man who prioritized keeping her secret over my mental well-being." The only sound between them was the distant crash of waves. "The man who let her get close enough to touch our anniversary." Finn desired to move across the room and embrace her. He intended to make a vow that Sheila would never approach them again and that, if necessary, he would cut her out of his life entirely. However, he was aware that Steffy required more than just assurances. She required time. The horrifying reality was that there might not be enough time. Dylan, meantime, was sitting above the bikini bar in her tiny apartment, gazing at the Forrester Creations badge she had thrown on the kitchen counter. She could still hear the warning. Every word had been meant by Electra. The career, the security, the creative possibilities, and the sense of community she had begun to experience would all disappear with one more step toward Will. There was a part of her that wanted to contact Electra and ask for another opportunity to clarify. The majority of her declined. She had had enough of apologizing for seeking something genuine. Will texted her and her phone lit up. "I'm thinking of you. Tonight's dinner. There's no pressure. I simply want to see you." Dylan's thumb lingered. She pictured Electra's face, the unpleasant way that professional power and friendship had intertwined. When no one else was there, Will would gaze at her as if she were the first thing that made sense in months. Before she could convince herself otherwise, she composed a response. "Indeed. Come get me at 8 o'clock. The choice descended upon her like a subdued form of rebellion. She would be open-minded to whatever happened next, whether it was a job or not, friendship or quiet. Even after Steffy begged Finn to leave, he continued to stay at the beach house. He watched the window's lights go out one by one while he sat outside in the car. Electra was most likely sitting at her desk somewhere across the city, gazing at drawings for a young line that could provide her with the control she so much wanted. Dylan was picking out a dress for a dinner date with a potentially expensive man. Steffy was alone herself with the water and the burden of all the unfulfilled promises that had led them to this moment. Finn closed his eyes and put his forehead against the steering wheel. He had hurried home with the hope that the harm could be repaired if he could simply get in touch with her and provide an explanation. The reality that had been waiting for him all along was now clear to him. Certain distances could not be covered quickly. Some wounds required more than just showing up. One cautious, sincere step at a time, they required the protracted, uncertain process of regaining confidence. And until Steffy trusted him again, he was willing to accept each and every one of them, for however long it took. Eshing in a manner consistent with the anarchy that was already raging within his chest. The Bold and the Beautiful had begun the week of August 17th with a feverish urgency that could only come from a marriage on the verge of collapse. Every moment he was grounded felt like a nail being rammed into the coffin of all they had rebuilt because Steffy Forrester Finnegan was disintegrating somewhere across the city. After she threw her wedding ring at him on that sun-kissed beach, he had spent hours speeding through Monaco's tortuous streets, her voice breaking with betrayal as she cried out that Sheila's shadow had once again tainted their holy reunion. Finding her before the damage was irreparable was the only thing that mattered now that he was home, or at least on the same continent. The flight back had been a jumble of hurried calls that ended up in voicemail and unread texts. Finn could still hear Ridge's previous rage. His father-in-law had not held back when Sheila's attendance on the Monaco trip was eventually revealed. Brooke had attempted to mediate, but there was little room for justifications given Ridge's protective fury for his daughter. Finn had attempted to clarify that he had told Sheila to stay away and had even promised to preserve her secret if she left right immediately, but his words had fallen flat on Ridge's clenched jaw. It didn't matter anymore. He simply needed Steffy's forgiveness. Yet while boarding a commercial airplane drenched in heartache and first-class champagne, she had already pronounced their marriage over. Another storm was building at Forrester Creations across town. With her arms crossed and her eyes fixed on Dylan, Electra Forrester stood in the design office with an icy perfection that allowed for no space for compromise. Electra was done acting as though the lines had not been crossed because the friendship that had before appeared unshakable was now in jeopardy. Will Spencer and Dylan had become much more than just friends. Electra had gone beyond courteous cautions due to nights spent in his arms, modest admissions of deeper emotions, and the way Will's name seemed to stay on Dylan's lips. She had already reminded Dylan of the pledges made when their friendship was restored, that Dylan would avoid Will and that there would be no personal involvement in their work connection. Electra was ready to enforce the sanctions because those promises had been broken. You believe you can simply take what you want and maintain your employment? Electra's voice was like a razor cutting through the office's silence. There was no hiding the threat. Electra's growing power within the corporation suddenly made Dylan's hard-won and well-protected position at Forrester appear vulnerable. Electra now has unprecedented leverage because to RJ's recent encouragement that she take the lead on a new youth-focused line. The ability to choose who stayed and who left came with that possible elevation. Electra no longer saw Dylan's persistent pursuit of Will as a personal betrayal. Rather, she saw it as a professional hazard that she would not put up with. The mounting suspicions of Katie Logan only fueled the flames. Katie's maternal instincts sharpened as she saw something more premeditated in Dylan's interest in the Spencer name and fortune, and she started asking probing questions about why Will was spending so much time with the woman who had once been Electra's closest confidant. Finn's quest for Steffy took him to the Forrester mansion, the Cliff House, and ultimately Eric's office at the corporate headquarters, the only location that remained coherent after everything else had fallen apart. When he got there, Steffy and Carter Walton were enjoying each other's company in a risky way. They were both raw from their recent defeats. Carter was left stranded by Daphne's choice to purchase a one-way ticket to Paris following the devastating reality of her infertility issues. He was staring at the empty space where his marriage had once existed while nursing a bottle of something powerful. Steffy had fallen into the same office in need of some sort of anchor, still carrying the aftereffects of her inebriated flight home and the sting of having tossed away the sign of her vows. What had started off as sympathy soon turned into something neither of them had anticipated. Confessions were exchanged after a period of silence. Comforting hands lingered for an excessive amount of time. Like smoke, the prospect of stepping beyond a boundary they would never be able to pass lingered between them. The delicate calm was broken by Finn's entrance. A new wave of terror swept through him when he saw his wife finding comfort in the company of another guy. He attempted to talk, to clarify, to plead, but the combination of tiredness and determination in Steffi's eyes prevented him from speaking. She wasn't prepared to hear his version of events in Monaco just yet. Still burning too brightly was the picture of Sheila on that beach, the way Finn had once again appeared to choose the easiest route with his birth mother. After being betrayed so frequently, trust took time to heal, and Steffy doubted her ability to persevere. However, There was a hint in her look that the door was not completely closed even as she turned her back on him. Whether Finn could get to her before that door permanently locked was the question.